All right, we'll get this started. This is the Cortez City Council work session. Tonight is Tuesday, February 28th, 2023, and the time is 6:30 p.m. I'll call this work session to order, and we'll start with A on our agenda, a presentation from Ken Curtis, the General Manager for the Dolores Water Conservancy District. Yep. So go to either mic, make sure it's on the green, push the button to make sure the green light's on, and then you should be good. Thanks for being here tonight, Ken.
Thank you. Mayor, Council, thanks for having me here. Thanks, Drew, and organizing. I was just asked to give a general update. I guess the big news, obviously, is the snowpack. We're having the best year we've had in 4 years, so things are looking good for a change on the waterfront. I can go into a lot more depth, but we're well above average, and we have more, we have more than 100% of our normal peak snow. So we're looking for a full supply, and if it keeps snowing, like the short-term forecast shows, we're likely to even have a small spill. It's real possible. With that said, the other thing of interest is we will be opening up boating in mid-April, weather permitting, access to the boat ramps. And we continue to see increased infested boats coming out of Powell into McPhee. We stopped 18 last year, and we're still looking to improve the inspection station at the McPhee main ramp. So that's probably going to be our immediate push. Beyond that, I could go into other initiatives. We continue to work alongside other local parties on the Dolores Water Resilient Forests initiatives. And we're doing increased work on the forest through several projects that they're involved in. And we'll also be having a monitoring and recommendation team coming up in early April, talking about work below McPhee, primarily for ecological purposes, including the 3 species of concern down there, the chub and the 2 suckers. With that said, we're just gearing up for a normal spring, other than it starting out wet, and we've already had mud season, and things may get a little bit delayed, but that's kind of a good thing, at least from our agricultural producers. They should have a good start from McKelmo all the way north and down to the Ute Mountain Ute Tribe Farm. Was there anything kind of specific you might have questions on?
I kind of have a general question. Do you anticipate they'll open the lower Dolores this year at all?
Well, depending on the next 2 months, it's real possible. Since we're ahead on our snowpack, we're actually tracking much like 2019, which snowed well into May. And if that happens, yes, we'll have some water downriver. If it does taper off, chances are there may not be any, but we still have a full supply in the snowpack up there, and we'd have to actually lose some of the snowpack to miss a full supply. So we'll be giving updates around in April. The M&R team is very interested in that. That is scheduled for April 13th, I believe. And I can follow up with any of these. We'll also be updating some of the water users, probably both county commissions. Our team meeting on opening up McPhee Reservoir is on April 6th. I'll have to get with some of the public works staff. That's historically been Rich who's monitored that. But as you've transitioned to new staff, we need to get some new connections made. So it's good in the water business this year, but it's been a tough couple of past years. There's a lot of history behind that, and most of the news is about the Colorado River negotiations. which is a whole nother interesting realm.
Were you part of the NCA work that they were trying to do on the Lower Dolores?
We have been in and out of that, much like Montezuma County. We currently are on the fence on that one for some very specific reasons related to water rights in Plateau Creek. But with that said, we would likely be participatory in the management teams downriver. We are named as the water operator that would be the one working with them, much like the monitoring and recommendation team. The NCA would be much more formalized and obviously have additional protections on it. So we're not actively engaged at the moment, but we helped start it, and we ended up working with them at the end there.
Do you anticipate increased boating traffic this summer?
On the lake,
Yeah.
very likely. Probably has more to do with some of the economic trends we may be reading about. Gas prices remain high. A lot of talk about a potential for a recession, but from my anecdotal observations, we haven't seen any lessening of our tourism from Mesa Verde to long-term summertime residents, snowbirds, whatnot. With that said, the lake should be pretty full, and the only thing holding up the opening is a snowpack on the road down to the main ramp and House Creek. Once those get open, about mid-April, Forest Service will open up the inspection stations. So yeah, we expect a slightly increased year if tourism stays up.
Okay.
And then we've had calls on the rafting. We'll kind of make that call and start updating the website here around the 1st of April. So,
Great. Any other questions for Ken? Well, thank you
Great.
so much for being here tonight.
you
Appreciate
bet.
it.
Have a good meeting.
All right, we'll move on to B on our agenda, the Cortez Arts Advisory Board, presented by Ty Rogers. Make sure your mic is green.
We're just going to get a visual aid set up here. There we go. Yeah. So on the agenda, it says what we're going to be doing for like 2023. I think a big part of what we're presenting tonight is what we've been doing for 2022, just to kind of like let you guys know what we've been up to, and then we will also kind of lay out some ideas of what we hope to achieve in the next 12 months. It's still looking at me. That's the one. Okay, right. So Sam, if you could go to the next one. Right, so a big part of what we've been looking at is the idea of a possible creative arts district for Cortez. And that shouldn't come as a surprise to being like a big endeavor. And there is, through Colorado Department of Economic Development and International Trade, OEDIT, has a branch that's called the Colorado Creative Industries. And they have a platform that says, call yourself creative, a DIY process, and that's kind of where we started to say, these are the steps and stages to do that, and we are still very much in the first step of trying to make connections to our stakeholders in our community and building support. So if you could go to the next one. And that looks a little bit more like this, to where we are trying to identify our stakeholders, looking for like-minded groups and individuals, you know, just making meeting people, kind of trying to build some steam behind the idea that this is something that we could work towards. Thanks. And so with that, we have been meeting with lots of people. We've been meeting with Montezuma County, CREA, Zoo Gallery, Turquoise Raven, Cultural Center, Lore, Rotary. I mean, I'm just reading the bullets, but it's been a lot of meetings, which is fun and exciting. And then also connecting with other creative districts, so trying to get some lessons learned from their processes and how they went about doing their thing, as well as a big part of the Call Yourself Creative DIY process is identifying how each district is unique. So it's interesting to hear their stories, but it's also going to be just their story, and then we'll have our own. And then we've been doing a bunch of other stuff where we are, we've been trying to do a bunch of outreach to our known stakeholders. So we have an old survey that had an old list of 100 emails or so from previous iterations of the Arts Committee, and we really wanted to continue to outreach to them, but we didn't want to send like personal emails. So we feeling really energized by the idea of being able to have I think it's arts.committee city email address that's vetted through Ms. Marchbanks when we want to send out like PR. So we're talking about doing like a quarterly newsletter right now and trying to really engage that list of emails that we have so that we can do like bigger outreach work. What's the other? Myself and Jessica Thurman went to a thing called the Denver Immersive Gathering, which was a conference that was looking at the idea of experience economy, so like doing events that draw in tourists that come for an event and then stay and eat at our restaurants. So things like that, escape rooms. There was like a Christmas festival kind of thing. There's a whole bunch of like really cool things that we learned about there. And that was also in connection with this consulting group, Farm to Spaceship, who are continuing to work with Jessica Thurman at the county to try and do some things that would be enriching our economy and, you know, bringing some creativity also to our businesses and things like that. So one of the big things that we're really excited about in the next couple of months is that we've got a number of new members that are excited to join, a gentleman from KSJD, a new artist who just moved into the area. So we're really trying to boost that. Our membership has always been really weak, but I think that we've been also in kind of like a transition from what the committee used to be doing to what we are trying to steer it in the direction of. And we are founding members of this thing that Sam was just at a meeting of, which was the Cortez Creative Alliance. And that's a group of other entities that are also invested in the idea of how to enrich the Cortez economy through creative endeavors. So Cultural Center, CREA, the county's in there. We're representing the Arts Committee. Some of the galleries are in there, Lore. So there's a lot of us that are in that, and the mission for that is to just be about collaborating amongst the different things that we as individual entities are trying to do. And then, I think that's, the last one's the same as before. And then, so for our goals is we're going to continue to try and collaborate with the Creative Alliance, continue to build our partnerships with our stakeholders, again, connecting with our artists in our community. The quarterly newsletter I think is going to be awesome. We've just got our first draft that we're going to be looking at with that. There's this other project that's coming through Lore and Zoo Gallery called 81321 Launch, which is about Lore trying to put money into the community through creative projects, and that Cortez Creative Alliance is going to be like the board of trying to like approve projects. So we'll see what happens with that. It's still really fresh, and we're going to try and do a launch party for the launch thing. So we'll see. Social media presence, that's something that we haven't really dug too deep into, but it's something that is on our tickets for what we'd like to try and accomplish this year. We are partnering with, who is it? The Cultural Center and CREA with trying to revamp the walking tour map of our murals. So they're going to make it, I don't know if you've seen the old one, but it's a weird format for like pamphlet sizes. It's like more square than pamphlet shaped. So that's one of the things, and they're going to revamp that. And then also we've got collaboration with Mr. Creighton Wright with the Parks Department to do work with the skate park and bringing in some artists to actually do something large as opposed to like just a mural, but do something maybe that covers all of it. We'll see. We have a meeting with him coming up in a week or so to talk about that. So I'm not sure what his plans are, but I hope I can help him out. Do you guys have any questions? Or do you want to add anything from what you got? Okay.
You did great.
I'm the voice.
How does one sign up for the newsletter?
You can just, I mean, we can add you to the list.
Please.
There isn't any official way to get signed up for it since we haven't really launched that.
But we didn't ever have an email before that we could route all of that stuff to.
Yeah.
Because we use our personal emails in order to do the committee business right now. So I've been a part of the committee just as someone who was just hanging out with the committee back in 2019. So that's a thing that the committee back then was still trying to get, was an official email. So yeah, that's something that we're working with Rachel Marchbanks on, and so I'm sure she'll be helping facilitate that with us.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear about the newsletter, and hopefully you guys can get that info on the website too, so people can sign up if it's going to be digital distribution. Have you reached out to the skating community or plan to work with any of the youth for the mural?
That's something that Creighton has kind of already been partnering with. And also, I work for the DA's office, and so we have what's called a juvenile diversion program for the juvenile delinquent cases that we have. So I'm helping to facilitate bringing our juvenile diversion director on because he knows a lot of the kids who might be interested in doing that.
Yeah, and I've talked to a few of the kids. I work at the high school, and I've talked to a few of the kids there. But I think that there's some great ideas that we had with him. I think we met like a month ago, so we haven't really been updated on what he's got in place.
Excuse me. I just had a couple of questions. First, how many people do you have on the committee at this point?
We have two.
Right here.
Oh, okay. All
We had
right.
three, but our other member had to resign.
Nice.
Yeah.
And I guess this might be a question more for Rachel. Are there currently links for each one of these committees or on the web page that either internally or externally?
So there's an arts committee page on the website, so that can be the kind of the hub for where we could potentially post sign up for this newsletter and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and we have, I mean, like I said, we have two members that are, like I talked to Linda earlier, they just haven't sent in their letter yet. So hopefully that, when she was saying that the target is to try and get them in before the May, what did you call it? The May appointment meeting? Yeah. So that's the hope, is that we'll get a bunch of people in and we'll push hard to try and get some more appointed by that time.
Your board has a youth position as well?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, and we had a strong youth member, one of the students that I worked with last year, and I've invited a number of kids this year. So we'll see. I keep inviting kids, but we were talking about possibly looking at our ordinance to see how we can incentivize youth to participate. One of the things that, this is super fresh, but one of the things we were talking about is maybe trying to offer a scholarship for participation. So that's something that we are in conversation with. So.
Yeah, and trying to feel out what that might look like.
Yeah, there's nothing really.
Because the trouble is that the youth that we would like to be part of this committee, they already have such busy schedules, and since they're preparing to go off to college, they don't really have a lot of time to fit in something like this in person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, the kids at SWOs have to have service hours in order to graduate, so that might be an incentive or an outlet for them to complete their service hours.
Yeah, that's a good idea, yeah.
All right, any other questions?
Just want to say that it's nice to see the direction that you all are headed, and I have high hopes.
Thanks, yeah,
All right, thank you so much.
cheers.
Yeah, thank you for coming tonight. All right, we're going to move on to general council discussion. Does any council members have a topic they'd like to bring up? Anything to talk about? Dennis, you look ready?
If I get my button pushed here. The speed limit on South Broadway's been brought up at council twice now, and I have a personal, my wife was hit in 1978 on Broadway at that horrendous speed, and it rolled the truck, and now she's suffering back injuries from it still. And the speed on South Broadway, in my opinion, is way too fast. And I've talked to Drew a little bit about it, and I wanted to see what the other council members' opinion were. I would like to see that speed limit slowed down, and of course, CDOT has control. However, we know our city a lot better than they do, and I would think a push from us might be really beneficial, but I wanted to get everybody else's opinion. Right now, coming into the city of Cortez is 50 miles an hour. When you get up to Johnson Building, it goes to 40. That's still way too fast. And if you remember when we were talking about the rezoning last council meeting, they were talking about all the accidents that they were observing. So I think we can even get Chief Knuckles to testify to the fact that there is a lot of crashes on South Broadway, and they're usually severe because of the speed. So it's my opinion, the speed is too fast. I would like something done about it, and I'd like the opinion of other council members.
I would definitely support that, actually even broader than just South Broadway. Broadway as a whole, I think the north side of Broadway on the north side or the west side of Cortez is also dangerous. So I would even say we should be looking at speed, any way we can reduce speed along that whole western side of Cortez.
I'm definitely in favor of it. I think I agree with Dennis that I'm sorry. Can you hear me now? I totally agree. I think the speed limit, as high as it is often exceeded. And I think we definitely need to address that. It's a prime concern to me, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Arlena.
I was just going to say I'm also in a support of trying to figure out how we can make those sections safer. I'd be curious to know like what that process looks like, if there's already been studies done on that area and nothing's happened, or what steps we could possibly take.
Hi, Council. I just have an update. We have been working with CDOT, and one of the things they're looking at doing is putting in flashing radar signs, because people are even exceeding the speed limit right there. And CDOT is also, they've sanctioned to have a speed study conducted this summer with results maybe in October. So there are some things working, but certainly reducing the speed would help.
I can also tell you this is how long I've been around. In 1981, they changed the speed limit in front of what is now Choice Builders. And the reason I know that was my first day on the job, and my wife got a ticket the first day on the job as a police officer. She got a ticket for speeding on that the day they changed it. So I happen to know exactly when they did it.
Brian, with that relation, I'm also in support of the reducing the speed. So are we at the whim of like all the CDOT studies, or can we push CDOT in any way? Like, what's the bureaucratic process?
I mean, CDOT is it's a very slow bureaucracy, so it's not easy. We've had several meetings, and we believe that they ought to put in, the flashing radar signs, but they're kind of balking at that. But it's their road, and we think we should do that. But I think we could certainly try to push them a little bit, and with council support and, sit down at the table and see if we can make some progress. They owe us some information. They were going to get us some cost estimates on putting in the flashing radar signs, but we're still waiting for that. But it's very slow moving.
Do we have any leverage with CDOT to speed up their response?
I don't know if we have a lot of leverage, but certainly, they get citizen complaints just like we do, and certainly that causes them to react as well. And certainly, if we had a message from the council, that would certainly help, I think.
Good.
Is there any timeline on the flashing signs?
Not really. Again, we're waiting for some information for them, and, we met with them several months ago, and, I'm not sure, but we do need to push it.
Mayor and council, if I may, perhaps you would allow us to discuss this as staff and try to come up with some solutions and ideas. We really appreciate council's support on this, but I really think for it to be effective, we would need to formalize that somehow, perhaps a resolution, something along those lines. But let us discuss and come back to council with some ideas on that, and see what we can do to kind of help move the needle here. Any help we can get and any support we can get, we feel it's effective to a degree. To whatever degree, that's going to be up to them. But we do have a good relationship, and we're improving that with them at all times. So if you would allow us that, and then we'll get back to council.
I think if we got with Chief Knuckles and he could do a little survey on how many accidents they've had, I don't think that'd be too difficult to pull up. And you're going to find that there's some serious accidents happening on Broadway. So it's something we really need to address.
Yeah, we agree, and we will certainly incorporate all that kind of data into a resolution. We would certainly want to be fact-based versus just kind of, arbitrary. So we would try to come in something like that council could have confidence in to pass and sign.
Great. Thanks, Dennis, for bringing that to our attention. Do we have any other topics council would like to talk about or bring up? All right, then we'll adjourn this meeting and we'll start our regular meeting at 7:30 p.m.